Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
Back to the Social Media Derby. We've got a very special episode for you today, specifically focused on Man United and the summer so far for them. Before we get into any of the discussion and introduce our guest though, as always, for those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video and share it if you can. Also comment down below if you disagree or agree with anything that we've said. And for those of you listening on Spotify, Apple, or any other podcasting platform, please follow and give us a 5-star review if you can. So before we get into the conversation, let's go ahead and introduce obviously the panel today. We've got Antony, long-standing Man United fan on this pod. I know he's got a lot of interesting opinions to share as well, so we'll get to hear from him. And then on top of that, we've got our good friend Munashe, also unfortunately a Man United fan, but obviously if it's a Man United special, what else could we do but bring in another Man United fan? He's got some interesting views that are very different to what Antony has to say, so it'll be a good pod to get some differing opinions. But how you doing, Nash, mate?
Still suffering this transfer window, but hanging in there, doing the best I can.
You've still got a while to go, mate. Another month of this to have to deal with, so you're gonna have to hang in there, mate. But and how about you, mate? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I feel like we've had a weird window. We kicked off real quick or had things lined up before the window started, and then took forever with another deal. And then now I don't know what to believe. There's so much news floating about on X and on all these different ITKs saying different things about players that we're linked to, but I'm hopeful. I don't know how we're pulling it off, and we'll talk about it with Nash in a bit. But I'm pretty happy with what we've done so far.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get straight into it. We're going to kind of split this up into two sections. First of all, we're going to talk about obviously the confirmed transfers that have happened so far, so the ins and the outs, and just talk about whether we're happy with that business done. And then we'll kind of get into some of the more rumours kind of floating around about who's going to come in. And there's been a lot going on recently. I've been reading a lot of the Athletic articles, and you've been linked with a lot of different players. So it'll be interesting to talk about those. But let's go ahead and get started on the confirmed transfers. So just as a summary, obviously the ins, you've got Cunha coming in for, I think, 62-ish million. You've got Mbeumo finally going, getting over the line for 71. And then a nice young player called Diego Leon, who I'm not very familiar with, but he's come in for 3 million, which looks like it could be a decent bit of business depending on how much you play him. And then the confirmed outs, a lot of these ones I think we saw coming. You've got Johnny Evans leaving the club, Christian Eriksen, Lindelof, and then obviously the one that, there's been a lot of talk about, Marcus Rashford going out on loan to Barcelona. So let's just start off just talking about, ins and outs. Are we overall happy with the business that's done so far? And if yes, if no, what has stood out as being the best or worst part of the business that you've done so far? We'll start off with you, Ant. How are you feeling about the business so far?
Yeah, no, like I said, the timings have been frustrating, but generally the players that we've got in, I can't complain with. 2 Prem-proven bagsmen that can play number 10 in Ruben's system, and also wingers just in case we make a change in the future or whatever. So I really like those 2 players. Obviously, a lot's been made of their combined GA and stuff like that over the last season. Obviously, Cunha got 15 goals. Mbeumo got 20. But he had bare penalties, so obviously we're different at United with Bruno taking all the pens. But still, a lot more output than we had in those positions before, where we had obviously Rashford, who we were talking about before, not really hitting the heights that he hit before. You had Bumcho, who's obviously been out on loan and we're trying to flog him at every opportunity. You've got Garnacho, who's got the worst decision-making, it seems like, known to man from the last season, right? Wasting so many opportunities. And then you kind of had Xerxes, who seems more suited to that position, but had loads of injuries. So we needed to fill those two spots. In terms of proven players that can play in that system, I can't think of players that we could have got that are better than those two in those positions, honestly. Obviously, if you go out to the market and you go and get someone, unrealistic from a Real Madrid or Barcelona or a Bayern Munich or something like that, I'm thinking like, your Musialas and them man. Of course, they're levels, but we're not realistically going to get them. And they would still be a bit of a gamble for us, considering you've got to bring them into the Premier League. They might not acclimatise, they might not be up for the challenge, winning duels and the physicality. And with Mbeumo and Cunha, they're about it. They're going to be able to handle it. And specifically with Cunha, he's played in this system at Wolves. And to be honest, that was what caused the upturn in his form when the new manager came in after, who I really like Gary O'Neill, but that new manager came in and saved them. And it was because he implemented basically the same system as Ruben, and Cunha was slapping them in. So really happy with the ins. The Leon kid, he looks like an absolute brick house. So I actually got decent hopes for him to either push Dorgu or play games. And so yeah, happy with those signings. The outs, man, I'm not that happy about the outs yet, because 3 of those are contracts ending, right? Evans, Lindelof, Eriksson. We've shown no skill getting rid of those guys. And then with the Rashford deal, he's obviously given up some of his salary to make it happen. So you got to big up Rashford for doing that, right? He's put his money where his mouth is and decided he wants to go and play ball, unlike some of our other Fab 4 or 5 or whatever we're calling them that are just sulking around in the under 21s. Like, I rate him for doing that, but I don't rate us necessarily for that deal, because I'm pretty sure Rashford's people have all patterned that up and we've done nothing except go yes or no. So the outs could be better, and I'm hoping to see some big moves. But the ins, can't complain, man. I think the business has been decent. Just, the timings have been frustrating. So hopefully we can speed up the rest of this stuff and be ready for that first game against you guys on the first game week.
And on Nash, I mean, getting to you, I know we've had a lot of chat in the group chat before about, you're one of the older school Man United fans who are, of the belief that Man United can attract and really deserve to have the best of the best. Have you been happy to see Cunha and Mbeumo and Leon come in? Are you happy with this window so far?
In terms of the ends, I would say we're in the rebuild phase where we can't get the best, but we can get the wrong below. So I'm actually really impressed with the business we've been able to do. And I sort of understand why we're taking our time, because of our financial situation. So we have to sort these deals in structures that make sense for the club. And that's the problem when negotiating with other clubs, because they want the cash up front. But in terms of outgoings, this has been institutional malpractice of a high order. I'm being so real. It goes top down, from the club leaking stories about these players, ruining their reputations, the manager coming out and ruining their reputations even further, letting the whole world know that we don't want them. So there's no way we can ever recoup the fees necessary to make this works on the books. So this is a top-down issue, and it's our own fault.
Interesting.
Garnacho last season could have gone to Chelsea for 75 mil, and now we can't even get 30. That's an institutional problem.
Well, let's focus on the Rashford one, right? Because we'll get to the Garnachos, the Højlunds, the Sanchos in a bit. But if we focus on the Rashford going out transfer, I mean, you've obviously you've been trying to shop him around at a few different clubs, but it seems that he's been holding up most of those deals because he thinks he's better than those types of clubs and he wants to go and play. He's had his heart set on going to Barcelona. Do you think there's more that the club could have done to ensure that, first of all, Rashford wasn't going out on a loan and you actually got some money for him? Second of all, do you think that you could have done more just, to get more for him up front, or, convince him to go to a different club so that you could actually get some sort of money for him? Because obviously Barcelona are well known for their financial mishaps, it looked like it was never going to be a permanent upfront transfer kind of sale. Do you think the club could have done better on the Rashford going out?
I actually don't think they could have done, because even the Villa situation, I fully believe he only went on loan because Barcelona couldn't afford to register him in January. So I was even surprised they managed to get a loan with a buy clause, because he always wanted to go to Barcelona, and I'm sure all the other clubs in the world were aware of this. So we didn't really have any options besides to send him where he wanted to go. So I don't think there's much the club could have done about that situation.
And how about you?
No, I agree. I agree with Nash completely. Obviously, he's put it in a very eloquent, beautiful way. But that is exactly how. That is exactly how we've been run. That my only issue is we're judging the club right now, with a macro lens, yeah. When really this is, and I know Ineos and Scruffy Jim and whatever have not been perfect, far from perfect, yeah. But a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is stuff that's been, like you mentioned, institutional. It's been going on for almost 2 decades, right? It's a Glazer thing. It's an Ed Woodward thing. It's a whoever that Don was, Richard, whatever his face was, Arnold was, who came in afterwards, right, for a little stint. Like those guys were useless, and those guys were out there playing PR games with everyone, trying to tear down managers, trying to tear down players, trying to brief the press that we're going to get Gareth Bale and prime Ronaldo when we had no chance to get them, just doing absolute stupid. And we've still got the legacy of that. But I think they're trying to change it, and that's where we're going to go through these real frustrating moments where we might take L's on the fees that we get for players or sell them for less than their value. But it's difficult. You've got to turn the ship around at some point, right? And I think with Rashford, it's a tricky case because I think I've talked about my thoughts on Rashford as a player, as like a fit for the club now. I rate him as a player. He's been a very good player for us, but it's very clear that either he didn't want it, he's been pissed off with the club, or something going on in the background, and therefore it's affected his performances. The fan base obviously turned at a big number at a certain point, and it made sense for the club and him to just have a clean break, and for him to go and find his joy somewhere else, try and recapture his form, and for the club to move in a different direction with a different culture. And I'm okay with it. No problem. I'm happy for him. I don't like this chat that does he deserve to go to Barcelona, because people don't ask those questions when other players get moves that they don't expect to come. And I think we can't argue with Rashford's talent or his potential, right? If he hits it, he could play for Barcelona, no problem. But if he doesn't hit it, he can't play for Villa, right? Like there's a big fluctuation between like his performance, whether he wants it or not, and whether he's up for it. And so far, he looks happy. That's all good. And Flick might be the type of manager to get out of him. Being around Yamal and like absolute ballers will obviously be a big upgrade from what he's been playing with at United. But the Rashford deal, like I mentioned just now, I don't think we've done anything. I don't think United have done anything around that deal other than just like on Football Manager, press accept. When the intermediaries or whatever have come with the deal, or Rashford's come with the deal, he's obviously wanted that Barca move forever. I think Nash is spot on. He would have gone there in January if he could, but they didn't have the P's, and they were struggling with all their registration stuff to try and register Olmo and all these other guys that they couldn't juggle it. So he just went to Villa to be like, just to get some game time, and try and put himself in the window for Barca again in the summer. And thankfully, Nico Williams has done the Uno reverse card on him again, and Diaz decided he wanted to go Bayern for some reason, and so they really wanted Rashford. So let's see what happens with the other transfers. I think the rumored outs, we can definitely dig into what Nash is saying. I think all of those points really, even now, are very true of the club.
Well, we'll get onto that in 1 second, but just a quick note. Do we think Rashford is going to succeed at Barcelona?
I have no doubts about it. No reservation.
What succeeded, Nash? What do you think Do you think he's going to bag bare goals? Like, what's the measurement of success
Well,
for him there?
for his current position in the squad, I reckon he'll be a solid rotation player who has the ability to end up usurping and becoming a starter in that lineup. I fully believe that because Rafinha, the way they wanted to play, they wanted more of as a floating 10. So I can fully see Rashford transitioning to holding that left wing role before the end of
Yeah,
the season. I can see him starting and making that transfer a permanent deal.
yeah. You see, the thing is, yeah, I think he could bang there, and I think he'll play, and I think Spain will probably suit him. I mean, we've seen a way inferior player like my namesake go to Betis and slap goals in top bins and play unreal. Rashford is way better player than Antony, so he can obviously do it, right? Like he's got a lot of the same traits that Antony does, but to a far higher ceiling, I think. So he's got the ability to tear up Spain, no problem. And I think it's definitely possible. And I probably agree with you, Nash. I think he'll be a rotation piece, and eventually, at some point in the season, I think he'll find a spot in that team. Um, I just don't know if I can guarantee that if success is him getting the permanent move, I don't know if it will happen.
He sort
And
of
I don't
reminds
think,
me of Falcao, like post injury, as like he got back to high highs, but it was never exactly the same.
yeah.
So I don't see Rashford going back to being up and down as fast as he used to be because of the back injury and all this, but I can see him becoming a really productive player, sort of evolving his game to be more of a facilitator than an out and out shooter. But yeah, I see
Do
Yeah,
you
success.
think?
that's my question mark now. I don't know if he can. Sorry, Johns. I don't know if he can become
A
a
facilitator.
facilitator. Yeah, I'm not sure. I,
It's
I I
not his
think.
natural game, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's got the attributes and the like. I don't know enough about like his football IQ to know whether he can start moving into that realm because I feel like when you become a facilitator for other players, it's naturally more of a thinker's role, I think. And I feel like Rashford's best performances have always been when he's been on instinct and he's just been letting his talent do his thing without necessarily thinking too much. So I don't know if he can do it, but just to wrap up my point, I don't know if he'll get the move, man. I like your confidence, Nash, that you think he'll get it, and I hope he does for our sake and for his sake. But I just feel like Barcelona is such a tricky place. Like John's mentioned it earlier, they might be the one club in the world that's financially worse off than us.
I was gonna say
And
that may be the
so I
only
don't
hold
know.
up. They may not be able to afford him because they can't even register him now. They're trying to get rid of
Exactly,
an
bro.
expensive midfielder just to
Do
make
do
the
we
books balance.
do we think that he's going to fit into Hansi Flick's system? Because obviously there's a lot been said about Hansi Flick. He's, let's say, not the easiest coach to work with, right? He's got very high standards for his players. He wants a certain type of player, a certain type of player off the ball. Do we think he's going to be able to fit into that and really give his all to do what Hansi Flick wants of him?
I think the off the ball stuff with Rashford has been over exaggerated because depending on which manager we had, sometimes like under Ten Hag, he was playing practically left back. He does the role that's assigned to him. I think he's fully capable of playing in a pressing team. He just needs the instruction to do so. And I think Flick's the kind of manager who's more of a man manager. So he'll put his arm around Rashford, make him love the game again, and bring the best out of him. I fully see that happening.
I think he can do it. I don't know if it's an instruction thing. I think it's an application thing. It's whether he
Mm.
wants to do it or not, whether he's motivated to do it, because he's done it before at different. Like Nash is right. Under Ollie, I can think when he was coming up and down the pitch when we were really transitional. We didn't have cheaters necessarily that would not come back. That pretty much everyone came back because we just didn't have the skill and talent to have cheaters really up in the final third. Um, but then if you look at other managers like Ten Hag, he did sometimes, and then when things were kind of a bit rocky, he stopped doing it. I mean, if you look at Ralph Ragnick, he didn't do it whatsoever. If it like it's a conditional thing, man. And I think one day we'll discover what's really been going on with Rashy. Like one day we'll find out.
It's
Like
definitely
because
something off the field.
something's going on, bro. I've been saying it for the longest. I'm pretty sure Johnson, you'll remember. I've been saying something's happening that we don't know because like his joy, and maybe he'll get his joy back at Barcelona. And I'll honestly, as much as we banter back and forth, Nash in the group chat and stuff, I'll be happy for him because he is one of our own, and Rashi's bagged for us, unlike many players have. and he deserves his flowers for it. But at the same time, it's a curious case, man. What's happened? Something's happened, man.
I
I don't
think
know
it's
if
just
it's
Manchester,
personal
man.
life or something.
Something's going on in that city. The constant scrutiny, the press.
Yeah.
And I think obviously Barcelona press are also very, very on their players. But I think just being in a different environment, different language, no preconceived notions about who he is as a person, he can finally just be judged and criticized on his actual footballing ability, not
Yeah.
his character or stuff that's off the field. They'll
And
criticize him for his actual play.
it's a decently good club to go to in terms of, if you look at like the big clubs around the world, a fan base that will back him, even maybe when they probably shouldn't. You know, if he was going to Real Madrid, you know, I think it'd be very similar to Man United. They can get on their own players a lot and be quite destructive when they do so. Whereas with Barcelona, because they've kind of got that almost Liverpool-esque feeling where they feel like they're not part of Spain, they feel like they're their own thing, and as a result, they kind of fight for themselves so hard. It might be the perfect environment for him to go to from a fan base point of view, where they're actually trying to back him. And I think, you know, a lot of people in Spain and outside of the UK still rate Rashford really, really highly, right? I think in the UK, we kind of live in somewhat of like a bubble where a lot of people think Rashford's kind of past it now. But I know from speaking to German friends of mine and from people that support, you know, Spanish clubs, that they still rate him quite highly as a player. And they think that actually he's one of the few players in England that still kind of got that X factor to him. So, you know, you never know. You know, the fan base might really, really get behind him. And it doesn't seem like, despite Rafinha's like a really good performance last year, it doesn't feel like that spot on the left-hand side is like locked down and ungettable. I feel like to replace Yamal would be damn near impossible. But I think even though Rafinha's been really good, I think the fans would still be okay with someone coming in and taking him out, and there's not going to be a whole bunch of people rioting or something because they're not playing Rafinha and they're playing Rashford instead. So it is an interesting case. But let's now move on to maybe some of the hotter topics. We'll go through some of the rumours. So I'll just go through them very quickly. We'll go first with the ins, right? This has been a big one recently. You're obviously looking for a striker, and at the moment it seems to have narrowed down to Benjamin Sesko and Ollie Watkins. And then, of course, you're still looking for a goalkeeper replacement with Onana getting injured recently. So you're looking at Emi Martinez, I believe. And then a player I'm not too familiar with, Lamens, you're also looking into as well. The outs, you know, Antony, Garnacho, Højlund, Malacia, Sancho, these are all the players that people have been not super happy with. And I think it's been very clear that Man United fans have been wanting to get rid of a lot of these players, if not all of them, for the last year or two anyway. So those ones aren't too surprising. But let's just focus on the ins first, right? So we'll talk about the striking position. So Sesko, Watkins, what have you made of these two choices? Do you think this is the right shortlist to have? And if it was up to you, which of the two would you go for and why? We'll start with you, Nash, first.
Like I said, with the incomings, we're not at the level right now where we can get an out-and-out bags man, so we have to get the wrong below, one with potential. In terms of Sesko, I really like his game. Fast, athletic, but also very technically gifted. And I think with the right coaching, he can become something. I like Watkins, but for where our squad is, he's up there in age. So by the time we're ready to compete again, he'll be 32, 33. So it doesn't make sense for me for him to be our main number 9.
Yeah. And how about you, Ant?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, man. I think the best option for me is Watkins, but that's not really in keeping with what the other transfers have been in this window, and also since Ineos has been at the club. They've gone for younger players, the younger profile, and obviously Watkins is 29 this year, I think, or turning 30 this year. But it follows the theme that we've already kind of kicked off with this window and going for Prem proven players. And I don't know Watkins' exact stats, but I've heard things about how there's only like a handful of players that have scored more goals than him in the Prem the last like 5 seasons or 4 seasons or something like that. And the players that are on that list are like your Salahs and your Haalands.
He also gets a hell of a lot of assists. Top. I think last season he got something like 14, 15 goals and like 12 assists just off the bat.
Yeah, 16 goals in the league Very good.
There you go.
Exactly.
But I think
And
he also got double figure
I-
assists as well. So he's near enough getting 30 GA a season. Because the season before that
And this
also
is a
he was
pragmatic
banging goals in
coach.
like no one's business. Remember that?
19
Yeah.
in the league last season before.
Yeah, exactly. He's like we drop Prem proven really for anyone who's played in the Prem, but Ollie Watkins is legit proven. He's not Prem proven that like how people throw it around. Like he's absolutely slapped for Villa. I can remember a hat trick he scored when they scored 7 against the Scousers. Like he's done it against big teams as well. So obviously stuff like that is really, because this is the thing. What Nash said before is true. Like I'm just against the idea of going for another project striker. Like Hoyland's me on that. Like I don't want to imagine another. I don't want to imagine another project striker again until we've got, I don't know, a Harry Kane-esque player who's bagging 20 every season without fail, and then we can do the little project on the side.
Who was the last project striker who actually came good from a top club and then actually developed elsewhere?
I can't think of one, bro. Like maybe Haaland, but he's not really a project striker because he came in already. I'm just thinking the age he was
at Dortmund and elsewhere.
Haaland was a project striker at Dortmund, but he's not. By the time he was at City, he was no longer a project striker. He was like a certified bagsman.
Even Isak.
I'm just thinking the ages. Maybe it was Isak, you know, because Isak had exactly. He'd been at a few other clubs and he'd not bagged really, right? Like there've been flashes. Because he was at Dortmund for a bit, right?
Yeah,
like, I think. After the Dembele, Ousmane Dembele transfer, like they bought a bunch of young players, and I'm pretty sure Isak was there for a minute, and then he went to Spain and he didn't really bag, and then he came to Newcastle, and then like he just took off. But I can't remember a project striker that's been, because even Sesko is different, bro, because he's been hyped for years. And
he played in Austria first and now Leipzig.
But he hasn't really failed, right? I feel like he's just coasted. He's just kind of coasting there.
Well, he hasn't had his big move yet. You know what I mean? Like a project striker eventually gets a big move, and then it comes down to, are they going to do it or not? And it's at that point where you say they failed or they haven't failed. But for him, he's still not been playing for, like, he still hasn't got his big move to one of the biggest clubs yet. I think if he comes to Man United, you're still a big club, despite your stinky position last year. You're a big club. So I think the failure is going to come down if he comes to United and flops. That's when people might start saying, you know what, actually maybe this guy ain't what we thought he was.
Yeah, and that's the same situation as Højlund, though, isn't it?
Mm.
That's exactly the same. That's why I've got PTSD around it, because the Højlund move. And I don't like this as well. People being disingenuous on X or whatever when they start like, this is what Højlund was when he was at Atalanta. You know, he was better than Sesko. No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. He was
I've seen that reel. He's hitting shin splinters and P rollers and like he's not bagging clean strikes. He still looked scruffy, right? He looked like his movement was good in Italy, but again, he's playing against like geriatric defenders who are all like almost 60. Like, and the pace is way slower, so I'm not really going to put that as one of his big traits. But he looked promising. But what Sesko's done, even though it's equally like mediocre, I think in terms of the output, like the goals and the flashes, there's something that you can see with him. Like, man's mad athletic, he's rangy. He looks like his striking ability is like unreal, the power and all that kind of stuff. But I'm still shook about taking a risk, because it's going to be pricey as hell, same kind of cost as Højlund, if not more. And then we're at, I think, a more desperate stage than we were when we got Højlund. Like Højlund, even though Ten Hag has been proven to be an absolute terrorist, right, with hindsight, like we finished third in the season that we got Højlund and won a cup, right? He came into a team that was not performing at its best, but definitely not under the scrutiny that we're under right now. So Sesko's coming in arguably in a more difficult moment when we've just had the stinkiest season of our life in the Premier League. And he's got all the same jeopardy that Højlund had. You got a big fee, he's young, unproven, new league. All that stuff is at play, plus all the pressure of us being shy. So I very much lean towards Watkins, but I do hear the argument that Watkins is a plaster on the wound. for the next couple of years. Like he'll guarantee all the I don't like the GA stuff for strikers. I can see the benefit for it because if we've got Cunha and Mbeumo behind him, a striker that facilitates for them is obviously a real benefit. But let's be real, if he gets 5 goals and 15 assists, people are still out there going to say he's not scored enough. A striker has to score, right? So he's going to have to hit the same numbers for us to be happy. And Watkins could do it this season, definitely. I've got more faith in him than I do Sesko. He might do it next season, but there's going to be a tail off at some point, right? Whereas Sesko, arguably in 3 or 4 years, could be a way better player than he is right now, and potentially a better player than Watkins. So it's a gambling game, isn't it? It's Russian roulette that they're playing.
Let me ask you guys one question. Which of the two of them, because they're not like they don't play in the exact same way, which of the two of them do you think fits the way that Ruben Amorim wants to play? Because I've seen a lot said about Watkins. I sort of was reading some stats in Athletic about how Watkins, most of his runs are in behind. Like he's very much plays on the last defender type of striker and always is running in behind. And obviously you guys know that Bruno loves a ball over the top. Sesko, obviously taller, rangier, not quite as quick, but still got a lot of the technical aspects that you'd expect from a really good striker. And as Antony said, he's got an absolute weapon of a foot on him, 99 shot power type of foot. So which of the two do you think is going to fit better into Ruben's system that he wants to play?
I actually think Sesko's been a bit misprofiled by the way he plays in Leipzig, because I don't think even Leipzig played to his strengths through the system. So I think I think he'll be better fit for our system, especially with the way Ruben likes his striker to be part of the build-up and help with transition. I think he'll be better suited to our system.
So you want to turn him into a Xerxes 2.0, yeah?
No, but Nash, do you mean he's better suited to our system compared to Leipzig's system, or do you think he's better suited to our system than Watkins would be?
I think compared to Leipzig's, but I think Watkins would do just as well. And I think Watkins is more versatile. He's done it under different managers. I think he can actually work in pretty much any system.
No, I agree with you completely, man. I know these pods, we love to have the friction and stuff like we did with the Arsenal special. but I agree, man. I agree. I think Sesko has been misprofiled at Leipzig. He's not a target man player. He's definitely actually what you described, Johns, as Watkins. I think Sesko is as well. The major difference is I think they've obviously there's difference in athleticism. There's difference in like striking ability and stuff like that. And I think I would describe Watkins as kind of the ideal Ruben striker. I think he's like maybe a similar profile to Gyökeres in terms of being like quite a powerful runner, runs the channels, gets in behind. I think he's probably got a slightly tidier game than Gyökeres, Watkins does, in terms of his like link up and build up play. It doesn't like bounce off him as much, but I think probably like he's not as clinical a finisher as Gyökeres, right? Watkins does miss quite a few chances, whereas it seems like Gyökeres is more clinical, and that's the reason why he scores so many goals, right? But I think he's in that mold, whereas Sesko can do a lot of those things, but I think there's potential almost that he can do more. But obviously it's flashes in the pan, right? Like I don't think we've seen Watkins and that kind of striker score the goals that we've seen on some of Sesko's highlight reel, right? They're quite unique goals that certain players can score, but I think they can do the same kind of job. I think I just think that we'll need patience with Sesko, and I don't know how much
agree with that, and
I
think with Sesko, because I was watching some comparisons with him. Right? I'm not going to say he's exactly the same, but I think Sesko has the ability, if he reaches his potential, to be a lot like what Isak is, essentially, right? He can play a target man, he can play a build-up player, he can play pretty much anything you want him to play, because he's pretty much got all of the technical and physical attributes to be similar to that. Whereas Watkins is very much, he's 29, he knows what he is, he's going to be that, and that's what he's going to be. He's not going to have a lot of, let's say, room to kind of change into a completely different striker and really be more like a Firmino type, which we've seen Isak be able to do, right? Isak's got the technique to be able to pass, he's got the decision making, he's got the selflessness to be able to pass it to the right players when he needs to. Whereas I think Watkins knows what he is, and he's not necessarily going to do anything too different from what he has shown that he can do. But one thing I want to talk about, the last thing I'll probably say about these two is, obviously Newcastle have just put in a bid for Sesko, which has been rejected, and I believe it was for around 80 million euros, which I think is.
I don't think it was rejected. The report saying it wasn't rejected.
The Athletic have just reported that it was rejected, and that maybe Newcastle will come back in for him, but off the bat, they've said that 80 million euros or however they structured the deal is not what they want. And obviously, with me being an Arsenal fan, I've seen a lot of things going back and forth. I know that Sesko's agents doing things and doing some madness in the background, trying to get as much as he can for his players and so on and so forth. But what do you make of the fees that you're going to have to pay to get both of these? Because I think there's also been some discussion about Watkins. He's 29, 50 million is probably a bit too much for a 29-year-old. Are you happy with the amount of money that you're probably going to have to pay to get either one of these two players? And who do you think, from a value for money point of view, is the better decision to make?
I'm actually okay with the Sesko fee because I don't see as much risk as you do, Ant. Because I think one thing we're not putting into account is his international form. He's already played 41 games for his country with 16 goals. So he's not as raw as we think he is. So I think he's there. But in terms of the fee, that's the going rate for a player with potential now. There's nothing we can do about that. We just have to move with times. We're not getting in for 30 mil anymore. Those days are behind us now.
No, I agree, bro. I agree. Let's put it this way: I'd rather pay 65 million than pay 52 million for Madueke, right? If we can tie in last week's pod.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like it's obviously everything's inflated, bro. But I hear you. Arsenal fans do have an interesting perspective on Sesko because obviously that was the number one striker target according to what Arteta wants, according to the media and all the shit, before you guys pivoted and went and got Gyökeres. So you've been deep in that Sesko world and the rumour world, and obviously there was all this stuff going out about them wanting release clauses and different things from Arsenal during a negotiation, and you told them to do one. So obviously, if the agent is moving mad like that with us, my general rule of thumb post Pogba debacle when he left us is tell the agent to go and suck eggs because we're not dealing with them when they start moving like that. So we obviously can't get a deal where he's got a release clause. We've got to try and get him within our wage structure and for a wage that a young potential striker deserves and not a crazy wage a la Sancho or something like that. So we've got to be careful, but I'm not that scared about the fee for Sesko because I believe there's also some other stuff going around about how they've got an agreement that they'll deal at a slightly lower price for a certain band of clubs, which no offense, but actually full offense to Newcastle, they're obviously not in that band of clubs, right? Yeah, like Newcastle are not in that band of club, right? They're getting parred off by every big club in the windows taking turns with them in this summer window. So yeah, we hopefully can get it lower than what Newcastle are bidding. But if it gets up, yes, like we're talking pounds. If it gets up past 75, I'll be a bit worried. 75 million, I think, and up would be scary because you're getting into real big numbers now. But I think if you keep it within that Cunha to Mbeumo range, slightly above, I'm not that worried because, like Nash said, when you're paying for like one of the people touting as one of the next big strikers, you got to pay bucks, man. That's just what it is. The Watkins one is a bit scarier in terms of the fee. I'll agree. Because if you pay more than 50 million, that's bad business. Because if you think about the contract length, you're not going to shift him. It's going to be like Casemiro. Like you're going to, at 33 or 34, when Watkins is like going on the decline, his book value is going to be massive and you're not going to be able to shift him. So you're going to have to just keep him. So if we get Watkins, we have to just come to the kind of, we have to be at peace about the fact we're going to have him for the entire contract that he signed. Like we're not going to be able to shift him. We're not going to be able to move him. That's going to be the value to us at all times. So we've got hope that he maintains a decent level, even when he's declining. And so I hear what Nash is saying. Probably that's why we've made Sesko the number one target, because they're looking at it from a business perspective too. If something happens, they can still potentially recoup their money and not get screwed over on PSR. Whereas with Watkins, we're kind of just
Yeah.
going for now and then hoping we become a winning club again and we don't have to worry about his book value.
Yeah,
I
and I
also
mean, as an
think
Arsenal
our new
fan, I've got
director,
some
Vivell,
experience. I've got some experience with Watkins as well, because obviously we went for him in January, and Villa told us to jog on because we weren't willing to pay enough for him, right? So I mean, I don't see how much like that much potential for them to really let him go, because they haven't got a Duran anymore in the background. They haven't got some kind of one kid striker that they think that they can put in the number one spot there. So I don't think they're going to let go of him for anything lower than 45, 50 million. So if it's going to be between the two of those, I think depending on how Sesko's agent plays it and how kind of Leipzig play it, you might be able to get better value for money out of Sesko. But I think the last thing we'll kind of skip a little bit here and just go to Højlund, right? Because I'll go a little bit to the outs, right? Because there's been a lot of interviews flying around with Højlund, people asking him, what do you make of, the interest in other strikers? Are you going to go? Like, do you want to stay? What's going on? And he's made it pretty clear that he wants to stay and fight for his spot at Man United. So kind of what do you make of those statements about him being determined to stay at Man United? What do you think it does for, the potential for him to leave the club?
I appreciate that he's wants to fight for his place, but all I see now is PR from him, because allegedly he was leaking a lot of stuff. So this is just who he is now. So I don't see him becoming any good, and this is just a way to get the fan base on his side, to get some grace, which they didn't show other players who have been forced out. So I really don't have any sympathy.
Yeah, get him out of it, man. All these sound bites and bullshit that I've heard over the last couple of days. I'm not buying a single bit of it. You've been so poor last year, so poor, and this is where I'm gonna hold the same energy. Yeah, when Rashford was kind of sulking a bit on the pitch before, and I've been like frustrated with him and getting angry at him, I'm gonna hold the same energy with Højlund. There were lots of times last season when man was turning around, sulking when he didn't get a pass, or if he got a ball and then he did something absolutely bullshit with it, and there's been no self-reflection and there's no awareness about how he's been playing. And then he's coming out here saying now he's going to fight even if we get another striker. Big man, there'll be 3 strikers. You'll be bottom of the list. Why are you going to rot away? Just go and play football, man. I don't understand this. And Nash is right, man. It's a big PR effort. He'll go on and chat bullshit to Goldbridge on the United stand, and they'll do some think piece about how he's still got potential and he's been failed and he doesn't have chances, and his actual strike rate when he does get chances is some of the highest in the league. I'm sorry, our eyes don't deceive us. That's a poor striker. It's not a Man United striker. I know he's still young, but 2 seasons is enough to know that's not improving to the level that we need, and this project's done. So he can plead for everyone to have sympathy for him, but I don't know, man. I'm just thinking of that Top Boy scene with Kano in it. You know what I mean? Don't beg, just get out of it. Just and Leipzig won him as well. This is what infuriates me too. If he turns down Leipzig and screws this Sesko deal up, even if I'm not sure on the Sesko thing, I'm willing to take that risk more than stick with Højlund. So if he screws up that deal and he can't go, and then we can't get Sesko or another striker, I'm never forgiving him, and he's gonna be the target number 1 going forward until he leaves our club. So yeah, I hate all this stuff. It's disgusting, man. He needs to just shut up and leave if he gets a move, or if we decide to keep him, fine, but just be smiling on the bench. Don't be leaking stuff and causing dramas, because we've got to get away from that culture, man.
And do you think that, I mean, in terms of from a financial point of view, do you think you have to get rid of him to be able to get all of the other players that you want to get?
I don't think so. I think it's the book value thing. He's got 40 million on the book. So that's the tricky thing. And I think that's the reason why they're not pulling the trigger, because they probably won't get, let's be realistic, is anyone stupid enough to offer 40 million for Højlund right now? I don't know. Probably not. right? Like the rumors with Inter and whatever, they bought a striker for 25 million, yeah. So that they were probably maybe going to go 30 or something with
And that
Højlund. They're
would be a
not going to go
loan with
more.
an obligation, not even what
Exactly.
we need right now.
Yeah, but to be honest, I could see them doing a loan because they loan him out, they get a loan fee, they get his wages off for one season, then he comes back, his book value's down to 30 million. Maybe they can flog him for 30 million next season, right? Like, so I can see that approach probably working the best with Højlund because you're not going to get 40 plus now, and I don't think they're going to take the hit on the books with him, bro. They're not. They've got to almost every single sale's got to almost somehow manufacture a positive on their bookkeeping. So I don't think they will flog him unless they hit that number, and I don't think that's coming.
All right. Well, I think that's probably enough for the striker chat. I think there'll be a lot more coming out over the next couple of weeks about the Sesko deal, Watkins. You never know. I mean, you might have a third, fourth, fifth choice striker that you might end up having to go for because this has been the summer of just mad surprises and everything just going tits up from how you expect it to go. If you told me that I was going to get Gyökeres and not Sesko, I would have told you're chatting out your ass. And if you told me that Isak was going to push for a move away from Newcastle and that, that Liverpool were going to go buy Ekitike and then kind of be in this weird position where they still want to get Isak afterwards, I would have told you also mental. So, you never really know what's going to happen this season. But let's now talk about some of the other people that you're linked to. So Emi Martinez, as much as I bloody hate him, he's a decent goalkeeper. Obviously had a pretty good tenure at Aston Villa, but it seems to have all kind of fallen apart. He maybe had one of his not quite as good seasons last season. And he now seems to be looking to push for a move to Man United. On top of that, you obviously know as Man United fans that Onana has been maybe not public enemy number one, but he's been, one of the top three for Man United fans in terms of players that have really caused rage over last season due to some of the mistakes that he's made. Do you think that this would be a good replacement? Do you think, obviously now with Onana's injury, do you think it should be a priority for Man United to be trying to get another goalkeeper? And do you think Emi Martinez really fits that mould?
I want no parts of this. Absolutely no parts of this.
Well, what parts of it? What parts of this do you not want? Do you want to keep Onana? Are you a big Onana fan, or do you just really hate Emi Martinez?
The Onana thing, we can discuss that. But in terms of Emi Martinez, the wages he's going to want, the transfer fee that Villa are going to want, the age he's at right now, and his declining rate as a goalkeeper, it just doesn't make sense for me. I can't get behind it.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because it's kind of quite similar to the Watkins signing. Like, he's Prem proven. He's still a much better goalie than Onana, in my opinion. But you probably have to pay over what he's worth at this stage in his career. I will caveat it, though. I know he's in his 30s, but goalies go deep in their 30s. So
yeah, I'm thinking Van der Sar. You bought Van der Sar when he was already pretty ancient, and he ended up being one of your best goalkeepers ever.
Yeah, but we're talking legendary goalies with Van der Sar, right? Like,
yeah, but he wasn't a legendary goalie when he was at Fulham, right? Like, you bought him at Fulham when he was a good goalkeeper and turned him into a legend.
No, I know he wasn't at the time, but I'm just saying, like, that case might be one of the, like, to be honest, most of the legendary goalies go quite deep, right, in their career. Like, as far as I remember, like, a lot of them go quite close to the 40s. So it might just be, and now you can actually see like legendary players in other positions as well. So like Ronaldo's, your Messi's, and whatever else. Lewandowski's going really deep into their 30s. So I don't know, but you're right. Like, it's definitely possible. Who knows? He could come and become, I don't know about legendary, but he could become like a really, really good goalie for us as well. But there's definitely worries about it. I would probably do it if I wasn't as stressed about our financial situation and other things like that. I would maybe throw caution to the wind and be like, you know what, he's definitely better than Onana. He's, probably got a relationship with Lisandro if Lisandro manages to come back, and he's Prem proven. There's all the positives that you can tick off, but the worries are 35 million, 40 million has been the quoted fee, a lot for a goalie like in that profile. You're probably going to have to pay him a big wage packet, like Nash said. And the other thing is you might be stuck with Onana and him, which I think like our dressing room's going to be a mad thing if that happens, because they're both number one goalies or think they are. You're going to have issues. If you're able to flog him, then it's still a risk, but you know, it would be one that I might be willing to take in a similar way to the Watkins one. But if you've got Onana still there, recipe for disaster, man. You can't have, and you know this, Shonts, again, can't have two goalies that think they're the number one. It doesn't matter what bullshit your manager says about it, or any manager says about it. You can't have it. So, like, it's going to end badly for one of them. So, it's a tricky one. If we're able to flog Onana, I would go and get a number one goalie. I don't know if Emi Martinez will be my top choice, but that seems to be the one that we're looking at if we're looking for a direct replacement.
Do you think? Because I mean, Martinez and Onana are very, very different goalkeepers, right? I think, Anthony, you've characterised Onana as being an outfielder that plays in goal terribly, whereas Emi Martinez is certainly a proper old school traditional goalkeeper, can barely kick it in terms of, like, you know, kicking it accurately and so on. He can launch it down the field, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to being on the ball, he's no Edison, let's put it that way. Do you think if you do end up with Emi Martinez as your number one goalkeeper, do you think that's going to fit into an Amorim system? Do you think Amorim even wants him? You know, because obviously, you know, it's in this day and age, the Emi Martinez goalkeeper is maybe going out of style a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, man. I don't know, Nash, what do you think? You know, I think this stuff about goalies' style of play fitting into a style of play is a bit overblown, man. I see it with some coaches for sure. Like, obviously, Pep, pretty key to have an Edison type goalie.
But most people just want a shot stopper who can distribute the short ball. So
yeah, this is what I'm thinking.
Even at Argentina, he's fine, and his distribution is not bad. It's just not elite.
Yeah, I agree, bro. That's what I was going to say. Like, I think at the moment the game's shifted again, and this idea that you need a goalie who's some sort of extra playmaker, like, was blown out of proportion. Maybe Ten Hag did, and that's the reason why he got Onana. But in the fan base, I feel like we were complaining. We were like, "Why have you got Onana? If you're talking about wanting to play all of this, like, playmaker goalie type super keeper, and then you just get him to launch long balls, like, and there's no, you're not seeing what we've been told is the reason why he's got Onana." And I agree. I think these days with Amorim anyway, I think what he wants is the basics, like, be a good shot stopper, good handling, and then just be able to roll the ball out to your centre backs. We've got 3 centre backs, guys.
Who can play?
We don't need a goalie to be a playmaker as well when you've got 3 centre backs already on the pitch. Like, they're good. Like, that centre back is the one who's supposed to step out and play make, right? Worries me very much that we played Maguire in there sometimes, but you know, that's the centre back that's the player that needs to kind of play make more than the goalie. So I'm, as an ex goalie myself, God, man, I just want a goalie who can handle the ball, come for crosses, and not flap at shit. And then I'll be content, man.
Another example I'll give is, like, Luis Enrique, one of Pep's disciples. He supposedly only wants goalkeepers who can distribute, but he made it work with Donnarumma. If you're a good coach, you can make it work.
It's true. And Donnarumma's footwork is not amazing. He's a unit.
Shocking.
Right. Man stumbles over his own feet, right? But he's got solid handling, solid he's not my favourite keeper, by the way. We've been linked with him as well randomly. As well. But yeah, he can do the simple pass out to their centre backs, and when game time in the big moments happen, you can't deny it. Donnarumma does step up. I will agree though, Emi Martinez in the big moments, he does step up too, though. We can't argue against that, right? For his country, and even some of the saves he made for Villa last season, even when it wasn't his best season, unreal. That one where he, like, went behind his back, clawed it off the line from, like, a close range header, the save of the season. So he's got moments like that, but there's also the Old Trafford moment when he absolutely clatters Højlund. So you know, it's a tricky one. I actually would prefer the other youth that you mentioned, Johns, the Lamens kid. Yeah, I would go for him. I would go for Lamens, man. 15 million.
And you start him?
He's given me...
You bring him straight into the team, or you kind of keep him there when Onana X it up, bring him in?
Nah, he wouldn't. I don't think you'd give him. I don't think you'd start him immediately unless he's doing a madness in training, and then I would actually. But if he's just like bedding in, you still let Onana play, but you bring in Lamins when Onana will throw a clanger in. You've at least got someone that you can like genuinely put in there and not think he's another ticking time bomb like by India, right? And Lamins just gives me like very wild shades of Courtois, man. I don't know if you've seen some of his games, Nash, but
I've seen some highlights.
yeah, there's some uncanny Courtois vibes coming from him.
He played 30 league games last season, so you may be ready. You may be ready.
Maybe, but it's Belgium, obviously.
Yeah.
But like he's a big lanky unit as well as a goalie. I don't know about you, Nash. When I look at Onana,
6'1".
it's not moving me, bro. You know what I mean? He doesn't look like his limbs and stuff. I feel like goalies need to have like wild long arms and like they need to be rangy and stuff like that because they need to like be able to just stick out an arm or a leg or whatever and just get a reflex touch on it, right? And Onana, I don't think he's like too robotic and doesn't look flexible enough with his reaction speeds to get the ball and touch like those little fingertips saves that will become like match winning saves. And so that's why I don't know. I'm just looking at big rangy goalies naturally to come in because I feel like they'll just be able to do it better.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's kind of move on now to some of the outgoings. Right, we've covered Emmy and Lamins. Let's now talk about some of the rumored outs. You've got Antony, obviously. He did a good job in the shop window last season. I do think that they'll be interested in him. Obviously, you've got Garnacho who's doing all kinds of madness, which we're going to get onto. You've got Højlund, we've already covered, Malacia, and then Sancho. We'll start with Garnacho, right? Because this has been a crazy one, right? Obviously, Garnacho, wins the Puskas Award. You lot are calling him basically your next big star boy alongside of Kobbie Mainoo. He does look really, really good for the first, let's say season and a half. And then attitude problems seem to come up. He seems to also have major issues with decision-making on the pitch. Obviously, again, this season, I know, Nash, you kind of talked a little bit about, leaks coming out and how it's been terribly institutionally mismanaged. But, the Ruben Amorim telling him that he needs to go and find another place to play, that didn't come apparently from the club. That is being rumoured to have come directly from Garnacho's camp. So what do you kind of make of his antics during this kind of transfer window? Do you want him to stay? He is one of your kind of youngsters. You've got this great youngster record, which may be at threat depending on, how many of your youngsters you get rid of. What do you kind of make of Garnacho's his behaviour so far in this transfer window?
Well, he's our youngster, but via Atletico Madrid, so I feel nothing for him in that regard.
Mad.
He can go. But the thing is, yeah, like I was saying earlier about the reputation ruining the leagues, obviously, you say they come from his camp, but that's just ruined any value he had whatsoever. From 75 million last summer to Chelsea or January, now we'll be struggling to get 35 for him. And he's made it clear he wants to stay in the Premier League, so that's narrowed down the options to shift him. So, yeah, we're being held hostage, and there's nothing we can do about it.
But how do you think things will go? Like, would you be happy for him to stay if he does end up staying? Because you mentioned he's obviously ruined his value. You think he's going to stay? Would you be happy if he does stay? Do you think he should get minutes on the pitch or what?
I would be, but it's like Anson, it's going to be a time bomb. They're going to argue again before January. It's going to blow up again. But Amorim's already walked that by saying, "Oh, if they can't leave, I'll be happy to have them." I guess someone told him upstairs to stop talking like that about the players. But yeah, I just don't see how this marriage can work in the long term.
He's lying, bro. I said this in the group chat. Ruben is lying his absolute tits off when he says we're going to walk him back in the dressing room and he'll be part of the squad. Like, none of those lads are coming back to be part of the squad if they don't get a transfer. Right? They might come and train with the rest of the team. They're never going to touch a squad unless we get a massive injury outbreak. They're never going to hit the field. They're just going to be ostracized in terms of their like playing opportunities. Like it's just I don't even know if it's like a damage repair job, crisis management situation. I just feel like, what else is he supposed to say if someone says, what happens if they can't get their move? He's not going to then say, yeah, I'll keep pushing them down the age groups and they'll end up playing with the under sixes by January. No, like he's obviously going to say, yeah, we'll bring them back in or whatever, but they're not going to play. Like, do you remember what Ten Hag did with Sancho that summer? Man was training, whatever. It was still obvious he was leaving. He was leaving, man. Like, literally, the last thing he did for us was lose us the Community Shield with that penalty, and then he was gone. So I agree with you that there is problems with leaks and the way things are managed and the messaging, but I'm just gonna take full aim at Garnacho on this one. Like, a lot of this is on him. A lot of this is on his stupid little C-word brother who chats online all the time, and his family and little group of that surround him that are leaking to the press all the time. And the problem is also with him thinking that he's Ronaldo and thinking he's bigger than his boots. Like, he's a prospect. I love using that word on the group chat, and you man all mug me off for it. But he's not anything beyond the prospect, and he needs to understand that and know that. And the fact that he thinks that he's more than that and he's out here moving like a diva is ridiculous. He's not that, man. He's not that. And I don't understand where it's all coming from. And all I can think is that that's his character and that's who he is. Because we don't know him long enough. And that is the thing that Nash makes a fair point with the Atletico thing. Like, he came to our youth team when he was, 16 or 17 or whatever. And he was in there for a short period of time before he made his mark on the first team. It's a very different scenario than like Rashy, right? Or than Kobe, who's been there since like 6, 7, 8 or whatever. And all the people through the age groups have said he's a good lad and he's been working hard and he loves the club and he does all these things. And then maybe a moment happens, like we mentioned or alluded to with Rashford, right? Allegedly, we don't know. And something changes. All we know is that Garnacho's been a mouthy, kind of arrogant, troublemaking character on our team. And I'm sorry, the juice is not worth a squeeze for what he's delivered to us. Like, it's not worth it. If man is Ronaldo, the real Ronaldo, right? And by that I still mean Cristiano, or you can say R9 or whatever, right? Or R9, right? Whatever Ronaldo you want to choose, right? Then I'll take it. No problem. No problem. You want to be a diva, you want to cause a ruckus in there, no problem. You're bagging 30 goals or whatever. Right? Even with prime Rashford, when he was bagging 30 goals, wasn't that the season when he was still turning up late and doing a few little things and Ten Hag still smoothed it out? You would smooth it out if a guy scored 30 goals. But what did Garnacho get, guys? I don't even know the stats on him last season. But all I know is it was not it didn't move me. It didn't move any of us, right? What he did. So how can you be acting and behaving like this? The little Rashford shirt and whatever. Like, there's rumors that those two don't even get on. That Rashford thinks he's a little as well. So, like, the whole thing's just stinks, man. It stinks. And I hear you, 75 million in January. We're never getting that.
Nah, you think we're just smoking
never
mirrors?
getting that. Nah, we're never getting that, bro. Like, from what I heard, they were like Napoli put in 55 or something, and we turned it down because we wanted 60 plus or whatever. So yeah, we probably won't get 55, and he's lost value. But I don't know who I put more blame on for that. Obviously, Ruben's just gone full napalm on him to say that stuff in training, to say like get out of here, you better hope you get a club. Ruben seems like a pretty mild-mannered guy. For him to like lose his rag, you have to be an absolute, a real menace. So that's obviously telling you what's... And people forget this too. I'm rambling, but people forget. Remember when Ruben dropped Rashy for, was it the City game? He also dropped Garnacho.
Yeah.
So people go on like this Garnacho thing is now suddenly something that happened in the cup final. He's obviously been great in Ruben's gears from the day one, bro. but because there's this whole, he's a youngster, you don't want to sell the youngsters. And even me, I was backing it. I was like, don't sell him yet. He's still young. Like, he's still got potential. He's still got blah, blah, blah. But at some point, you've just got to cut the cord, man. Get him out and see the back of him. Let Chelsea deal with all this. He's a perfect Chelsea player.
Speaking of Chelsea,
Perfect
so
Chelsea
I mean, yeah, it's been made that he wants to stay in England. So you've really only got a few options there. I mean, Chelsea will buy anything with a pulse. Outside of that, though, I mean, maybe you're looking at a Newcastle. They're potentially maybe looking at wingers. They can't seem to get anybody else that wants to actually come to them. Outside of that, I don't know how many other options. We've gone and got Madueke, which is, enough has been said about that. I'm not going to talk about that one anymore. But you've kind of limited in options in the Premier League. And then when you get down to, okay, you've only got a few options. Could be Tottenham, but I think Thomas Frank's smarter than that. Tommy, do your job, mate. But what do you think is going to happen with this then? Do you think Chelsea's a viable option for him? And if so, what do you make of the fees that have been flying around for him?
Go on, Nash. What do you think, bro?
I think this is going to go down to the last week of the transfer window, if I'm being honest. It seems like there's Chelsea are going to try to bleed us as much as they can. Yeah. And then either they're going to try us with another loan obligation, although after the Sancho nonsense, I don't think we're going to fall for that again. But yeah, it's going down to the wire and we're going to take a massive loss on
You need to check those terms and conditions and make sure if there's a obligation to buy, that there's no way to get out of it, because otherwise they're going to do it to you again, mate.
Yeah.
Broski, guys, if I see Fabrizio, I'm uppercutting him, because he's the one that said, I'm sorry, if a loan can be cancelled, that's not an obligation to buy. Don't use that terminology ever again. Don't ever use that terminology ever again, yeah? As soon as I heard the stuff in January about how, actually, they haven't agreed terms with Sancho yet on what his wage would be if when it becomes permanent, my alarm bells started ringing. I was like, But you said obligation to buy. That's not an obligation to buy, man. I never want to hear that again now. Never. Because they've just backed out of it. It might end up okay, because hopefully Juve, sounds like Dortmund as well, interested in Sancho, and they'll come in and take him off us, and we'll end up getting a similar fee that we would have got from Chelsea. But no, back on Garnacho, I agree with Nash as well. I think it's going to run till the end of the last few days of the window. Chelsea will, I reckon they'll buy him outright, because they're gonna look to try and flog people. So it's gonna be they're gonna try and flog Jackson, right? They're still trying to flog Nkunku. So I think there's a domino effect that weirdly happens after either us or Newcastle get Sesko. I think once that domino drops, then whichever team doesn't get Sesko goes for Watkins. Whatever, once Watkins makes the move, I think he will make a move. Then Villa go to Chelsea for Jackson. Once Jackson goes to Villa, then Chelsea potentially come back to us to try and get Garnacho. But for all of those 4 moves to happen, it's probably by the end of the month, bro. Let's be real. The way we move, if we get Sesko, we might only get Sesko on deadline day, and then we're trying to flog Garnacho within the last 2 hours of the window.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I hope the Sesko deal takes as long as possible, and I hope he does end up at you, even though obviously, with our links to him, whatever. I hope he does go to you, because then I hope Newcastle have no option but to keep Isak so that Liverpool can't get him. That is my preferred way that these things happen. But let's talk about, you just kind of mentioned old Bumcho. Let's talk about Bumcho a little bit. It's very clear that my man is done at Man United. He's on to bigger things with Sweetie and all them lot. But he's saying no to money from Chelsea. You mentioned that there's interest from Dortmund, there's interest from Juve. Juve looking to, flog Vlahovic. Maybe that has an effect on whether they can come out and buy Sancho. But how do you think that's going to go? And I mean, I'm assuming that all of you will be happy to see him leave.
I actually don't see how Sancho strikes me as the type of guy who's really ready to just stay there so he gets his full wage. I don't see him taking a pay cut anywhere. We're going to have to pay half his wages to get him to go elsewhere. I don't see him willingly taking a pay cut. And I don't actually believe the Juve links like that. They're just as broke as us, if not worse, because of mismanagement. So I think that's more Italian media. So I don't really see that as an option. Maybe Dortmund again, but they've been burnt twice now. So I don't really see how this one's going to pan out. I'm actually at a loss on this one.
Nah, bro, you're being too negative on this one. You're being too negative, man. I think Juve can get him, but they're trying to flog people, so they're kind of moving the same way we are. So
Yeah,
it will
they
only
can't sell
happen.
anyone.
It will only happen. They're trying to sell George Weah's son. I'm not going to say his name after he was chatting about Italian food like that. What a disgrace. But yeah, George Weah's son, he's going to go to Marseille, it looks like. And that might free up some cash for them, but they're trying to sell a few more players before. I do think they want him, and I do think he might actually bang in Italy, man. As much as I think he's an absolute,
Yeah,
I
he's got
think
the
he might.
technical ability. He just doesn't have the athletic profile for the Prem.
Well, he'll look like a P&P merchant in Italy because of the lack of athleticism in that league. So he might be all right there. So that could happen. I think the Dortmund one is very likely to could happen because you say it was burnt there. They love him, mate.
That is
We chat. You guys all know Flo, right? We'll give Flo a shout out on here. Diehard Dortmund fan. He's like, yeah, I'll take him, and I'm shocked always. I'm like, what? I didn't even have to convince you. He's just like, yeah, I'll have him. I'm like, oh, and then he's happy. Like they got Champions League final with him. They've obviously done well with him before, so I think they'll take him, man. But you're right though. The point is, we'll have to pay him off. My man's about his money.
Has he got 2 more years on the deal with a player option, or is it what?
I thought it was one more with a player option, but it might be two. Just two straight. I don't know, but either way, we're going to have to give him a chunk of his of compensation. He's not going to go. He's not going to do a Rashy, mate. No, because there was those rumors that Chelsea offered him 80k, and when I heard that, I was like, you know what? I'd also tell him to go. But then I heard other rumors that it was 180 or 200, and the difference was like 70 or 80k, and he said no. And then I'm like, all right, Sancho's about the cash, man. He's not going to accept £1 less than what he's supposed to get, which is fair enough.
Football's a job to him. It's not a passion. I hear it.
Yeah, I get it, man. And if he feels like United have treated him badly, he's gonna turn the screw. So we'll end up paying him, I'm sure. We did it with others, man. People forget we gave Scotty McSauce a bit of a payoff, right? Because we owed him a bit of cash when he left.
Even when Pep joined City, to get rid of the players, they had to pay them all off. It's just something you have to do.
Yeah. So I reckon we will. But I think he'll move, and I'm praying we do. Get him out of here.
All right, well, let's get on to the very last topic, and then we'll wrap it up. We talked about all these links. None of them appear to be for a midfielder. You've still got Kebab Man in the middle. You've got Bruno, obviously Nash's favourite player in the world, still knocking about. What do you make of the fact that you've not really been linked to any midfield targets? Do you think this means that, it's going to be a Kobe, Ugarte, Casemiro, Bruno kind of midfield? Or do you think they'll give Collier more of a shot? Like, what do you think is going to go on here? And how worried are you that there's been no real links to midfielders so far?
Well, my God has better things in store for me. I can't go in the midfield like that at the beginning of the season. It don't make sense. And we all know
Kobe's looking cold, though.
Keep going, Nash.
Kobe's looking cold, man. I don't know.
Nah, Bruno needed to leave for that 100 mil, man. If we're going to play with midfield too, and Bruno has to start because that's the way Amorim plays, we're going to get overrun regardless of the pairing. It just doesn't make sense in our system, especially with 2 new number 10/wingers. There's no room for Bruno anymore. I just don't see his value.
It looks like Ruben prefers Kobe to play in a 10 spot. So maybe Kobe's going to be a backup for Cunha or Mbeumo.
Kobe's not a 10. I don't know what Ruben's playing at.
I know, but it seems to be that's the main place where he wants to play him. So if that is the case, then you really are down to Bruno, Casemiro, Ugarte, and Collier. Like, what other options do you have?
And that's so spooky. Ugarte and Casemiro pivot, so spooky.
Nah, man. Kobe's playing 8, bro.
Yeah, he's not going to play a 10.
What? Come on, man. How many times do I have to say this? Ruben's lying in the presses. He's saying Kobe's a 10 because he's trying to say he needs to get more athletic. He needs to get his fitness up like he was when he was playing for England and for United the season before.
This season.
Yeah, Kobe looks like he's ready. Right, that's what I'm saying. Kobe's looking cold. Like in the 2 friendlies we've played so far, Kobe, or I think have we played 2 or 3? I think we played 3, right? But the 2 ones in America, Kobe's looking nice, bro, again. Right? He's looking like he's got the little
he needed a break.
Little burst of speed. Because that's the thing though. Like, I get the close control stuff, but Kobe was a traveller with the ball. when he had that breakout season, right? He was a ball carrier, right? He was breaking lines. And then he didn't do it last season, right? And so there's the stuff about the fitness and having no rest and whatever. And I feel like his season didn't get going. But I'm backing Kobe in the 8, man. I don't know about Ugarte. We've got to wait and see. I've still got hopes for him, but
no, we can't wait and see. You can't pass the football.
Bro.
There's no waiting and seeing.
Bro, I'm waiting and seeing, right? You're gonna have to hit me with your boy Ugarte, and I'll hold it in the group, no problem. But Casemiro, yeah, all right, that's worrying. Bruno, of course, I'm gonna have to be Bruno Defense League with Nash on the pod, so I'm not having that. Like 10, 8. If we have a player next to him that can eat ground, then I think you can make it work. If not, I still think there's a way that he can make it work, right? He's our creative outlet. Clearly, if we get a striker that we've been talking about, and with Cunha and Mbeumo, you're going to need a player in that 8 position who's got vision and play the ball over the top. Guaranteed, right? So whatever you say, Nash, Bruno's the only player in our midfield that can do that. Kobe maybe can develop that, but I've never seen him do them over the top balls, right? Like he's more about what we talked about. Bruno's the only one that can do that. So he's got to play. Whether it's an 8, whether it's a 10, he's got to play, man. No doubt about it. But it is scary that we're not linked to anyone. Because we definitely need someone to eat ground, man, and cover ground. Right? I'm dreaming of Baleba, but it's not happening. But that would be the coldest sign.
Bruno left, but you know.
Nah, bro, shut up. We're not getting rid of Bruno. We can't get rid of Bruno to get Baleba. You need to have Bruno and then a Baleba type player there. Like Bruno's not going to be here forever, so you know you'll get your wish eventually. But he's going to be doing his testimonial before you get your wish, and I'll be there. We will be there.
All right, so I mean, Nash, it sounds like from what you're saying, you definitely want another midfielder because it does not appear that you're happy with anybody except Mainu.
We need another body in there, whether that's more of a, transitional player. We just need something to show up there, because I just don't trust the unit we have. Maybe someone like a Hayden Hackney, someone who won't be as expensive, but someone who can dictate tempo from deep. I just don't trust the options we have at the moment.
Interesting.
Yeah, I hear it. I'd get another body too. Get another body and don't care who it is.
Okay, well, I think this has been a great pod. It's probably not been as contentious as the Arsenal one, but to be honest with you, if we kept going on Bruno,
United fan base.
We all know the problems we have. There's nothing to argue about.
If we kept going on the Bruno thing, I think we would have found some contentiousness there. But we'll leave that part alone. But the last thing I just want to say is just a very quick one before we wrap up. Just give your team's transfer window a letter grade, A to F, whatever you want to do. You can give them a U if you really want to, if you want to take it back to GCSE days. Just give your team's transfer window so far a grade. Nash, we'll start with you. What are you thinking?
As we've got a majority American owner, I'll go with their system, a B-.
Okay, a B-.
Positive on the income, with good potential to do better, but the outgoings have dropped that grade drastically.
Okay, and Antony, how about you?
Giving it a C, man.
Wow.
Big up. Nina with the Nina. I'm giving them a C, man. I think it's a C, and that's only because of the outgoings more than anything. We need to get rid of people, man. Get rid of people, and that'll be bumped up. Incomings are higher. I would match Nash if it was just the incomings.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you very much to Nash for coming on. Hopefully, we'll see you a lot more. We need someone to balance out Antony's over copium that he brings onto the pod. But yeah, as always, thank you very much everybody for listening. It's great to have the pod back, and hopefully you'll see more from us coming up soon. So again, thank you to everybody for watching and listening. Nash, Antony, great having you here. See you next week.
Take care, guys.
See you later, guys.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.